Welcome to Answering the Call, the official podcast of the 12-Man Foundation. Our show brings you closer to the heart of Texas A&M athletics through stories of perseverance, purpose, and opportunity made possible by 12-Man Foundation donors. Hear firsthand from the student athletes, coaches, staff, and donors who are driving the success and future of Aggie Athletics. Let's dive into today's episode. Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of Answering the Call, the official podcast of the 12th Man Foundation. I'm your host, Ivy Robinson, and today I am joined by loyal supporter of Texas A&M Athletics, Jay Graham. Welcome to the show, Jay, and we are just thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
We were just sitting here talking about the history of our show, and in the past, we've interviewed current athletes, coaches, some former student athletes, to hear about their personal stories and how the resources and opportunities within Texas A&M Athletics have shaped their lives. But I'm excited because today we get to hear a brand new and unique perspective from you as someone who has helped shape those very resources and opportunities for Texas A&M Athletics and our student athletes. So I'm excited. It's going to be a great conversation, and I'm just thrilled to have this new perspective on the show.
Well, good. Well, I appreciate being here. This is exciting.
So let's start. I like to start at the beginning, the foundation, if you will. Tell us, Jay, where you grew up, and I want to know more about your family and kind of your upbringing.
There's a lot to that. Born in North Carolina on a Navy base. My dad was a Marine fighter pilot. Essentially an Okie growing up. My dad and my mom were both from Southern Oklahoma. So once he got out of the Marine Corps, I think I was probably 3 years old. Moved to Oklahoma. Lived in Oklahoma until I was in the 7th grade. And in the 7th grade, I think it was, Dad was a farmer, but a bad drought, had to go work. He went to work for Halliburton. And next thing you know, we're living in Bahrain in the Middle East. And so I lived 7th and 8th grade in the Middle East, a little island country called Bahrain, which a lot of people know about now. It was an interesting time because that was the place to live back then. Dubai was existed, but they hadn't started all the crazy building and everything that Dubai is today. So Bahrain was a great place to live. And then he got transferred back to the U.S., but to Houston. And so my freshman year in high school, I lived back home in Marlow, Oklahoma, as he was transitioning back to the Houston area. And so then my sophomore, junior, senior year, I went to Tomball High School. And this is kind of where I started becoming an Aggie fan, because if anyone knew me during that time, I was diehard OU Sooner. I mean, I knew everything about OU. Dad's an OU grad. My mom loved OU. Everything about us was an OU fans. So I moved to Tomball, and my sophomore year in high school, our quarterback is a guy named Lance Pavlis, the highest recruited high school quarterback in the country. Everybody was after him. Jackie Sherrill would tell you, Jackie would have all kinds of stories about him, but he ended up signing and coming to A&M. And I can still remember being in the spring, sitting in our auditorium for Lance's announcement day, and he announced he was going to A&M. And I was still OU at the time. And so I was like, A&M, that's pretty interesting.
So
Everybody went crazy.
Impression on you. Yeah, you're
left an impression. Fast forward, where I became the A&M fan, though, as I was dating a girl whose family were Aggies, and it's Thanksgiving, and it would have been, I'll get this wrong, probably the 1985 or 1986 A&M Texas game, Kyle Field. It's too loud. They can't snap the ball. The crowd's going crazy. They're getting penalties. That's back when they made you stop from being too loud. And it's the enemy of your enemy is your friend. And I was like, these people hate the University of Texas as much as I do. And I was like, I love these Aggies. And next thing you know, I'm an Aggie fan, and came to my first game. Still remember this. North End, Kyle Field, Horseshoe, sitting there. We stopped at Dairy Queen to get a burger because the tickets were free or cheap in the Horseshoe if you stopped at Dairy Queen. And got our tickets set in the North Horseshoe end zone, and A&M was playing Southern Mississippi versus Brett Favre.
Really?
And don't realize it's Brett Favre at the time. That's how old I am. And saw him standing, yelling, doing the yells. And it was just like, this is a cool place. And it's an hour 15 from Tomball. And next thing you know, I'm going to A&M.
That is awesome. So those traditions and that camaraderie on display truly just pulled you in.
Yeah.
What did your parents think about you coming to Texas A&M?
Well, it's interesting to add a little more to it. I played baseball in high school, and I was a decent baseball player, a decent pitcher, and had a chance to go to Rice. Took a campus tour and a recruiting visit to Rice. The coach at the time said, hey, look, I'll let you walk on here at Rice. I only get so many guys I get to force into the school at a time. And he goes, you're not one of them. He goes, academically, you got to get on your own. And so I went and did the interview, and I didn't get into Rice. And so I'm afraid if I'd have got into Rice, I'd probably ended up going there and playing baseball. But thank goodness Rice didn't think I was a good enough student to go to Rice. And so then I had a chance to go play at a junior college in Nebraska. And so the way it worked out, I'd committed to go to the junior college to play baseball. But early that summer, Mom said, go to fish camp, because I'd signed up for fish camp. And she could tell I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I go to fish camp, even though I was still going to play baseball in Nebraska, and came home from fish camp, called that coach and said, I'm not coming. And so fish camp really sealed the deal.
Okay,
and
that
so,
is neat. You drank the Kool-Aid
I
officially
did
at
a
fish
number
camp.
of ways.
Yes,
A number of ways.
Which, how do you go to fish camp and not drink the Kool-Aid? Because
exactly.
I remember for me personally, when I went to fish camp, it was like, this is the best university in the world. The traditions, the history, how, the Aggie network, and how it's a beautiful family and network of individuals that go out and they don't want to just exist in this world. They want to make an impact and better it. And so, yeah, what an awesome
Camp Duncan, 1988.
Camp Duncan.
I still remember.
Okay, so you came in the fall of 1988.
Correct.
Was there anyone else who, because I want to talk about that, your experience as a student here at Texas A&M, but anyone else who shaped your connection or encouraged you to go on to Texas A&M, or was it truly just?
No, it's pretty much truly. And Rusty Burson wrote a book about one chapter each for a bunch of different Aggies. And I said it in the book too, it's Lance Pavlis. And I've told Lance before, he's the reason I became an Aggie. And it was Lance and the fact that Aggies hate the University of Texas as much as I did. And I got to be careful now because I'm on a board of Regents, and I'm on what's called the UTEMCO board. And UTEMCO governs the endowment that A&M and UT systems share. And so I got to be careful now about what I say about UT because I do a lot of work in Austin right now.
So you got to watch your words, yes.
Yeah, I'll be getting a call from Chairman Eltoth, the UT board or Regent chairman, if I'm not careful.
Well, let's go back to that fall of 1988. When I think back to that portion of time of Texas A&M athletics history, it was a pretty prominent time, starting with, we had some athletic success.
Phenomenal.
I know in January of 1988, A&M played in the Cotton Bowl,
Yes,
and
they
huge
did.
upset of Notre Dame. Tell me
was
about
there.
some of the, tell us about that. Your favorite memories as a student, athletic wise, and then also just your overall experience as a student.
So I think my 5 years here, if I recall it correctly, I think we might have only lost one home game and tied one home game the whole 5 years I was here. It was amazing.
The golden era.
It was the golden era, and I've become really good friends with RC, which make sure I tell that story in a little bit because RC he's the most wonderful person in the world. We had a hurricane bowl that year. We had a game rained out because of a hurricane in the Gulf. If I remember right, can't remember if it was Arkansas or Alabama. Arkansas was in the Southwest Conference, but I think we were supposed to play Alabama early in the season, non-conference. Game got canceled, got played later in the year, and we called it the Hurricane Bowl. And, that was fun times. It was funny. There was supposed to be a bad hurricane in the Gulf, wake up Saturday morning and the sun shining like it is today. I mean, nothing. It was just crazy. But, yeah, football season was awesome because we didn't lose. And Cotton Bowl was awesome, beating Notre Dame. And, of course, The great thing about it is we had no cell phones. It all revolved around athletics. There was nothing to distract you from A&M or athletics because that was all you could do was just go to games. Basketball was no good, but I still went to every basketball game. Baseball that year was the 89 baseball team, which is, if you know your A&M baseball, I think we started the year 26-0, number one team in the nation, finally lost a game, but lost to Ben McDonald and LSU in the regional. And that was back before you only had 16 teams, I think, make the playoffs. And then, the winner of that regional. So we hosted a regional, and I can still remember losing that. I think that was 89. I can't remember. I get them all confused. But athletics was amazing. My 5 years here, baseball was great. I mean, the John Byington legendary home runs against Texas was my freshman year. Chuck Knobloch, John Byington, and then later on, Jeff Granger. It was a phenomenal time. It was a great time.
What's your RC story?
So I knew I'd made it as an Aggie when I was out at Traditions hitting on the driving range one day, and I walk up and RC said, "Hello, Jay." And when RC Slocum knew my name without me having to introduce myself to him, I went over to the side of the driving range and I called my wife. I was like, "Holy cow, RC Slocum knows my name." I tell that story to RC today and he just laughs, "Oh, Jay," and I'm like, RC is like the day that RC knew who I was the day I knew I'd made it as an Aggie. The great thing about RC, again, I get the years all confused. I can't remember if it was my freshman or sophomore year, Coach used to do chalk talk at Sabisa. And on Tuesdays, I think it was, he would have a chalkboard set up in a corner of Sabisa dining hall, and you could show up at Sabisa for lunch, and Coach would talk about last week's game and this week's coming up opponent.
Really?
And he just sat there with students at Sabisa dining hall, and there may be 10 of us show up, and there may be 20 or 30. I mean, it never was crazy. Like if Elko did that today, right? It would be standing room only.
For sure.
But Coach used to come, and so
it's kind of an intimate setting where you could be right there one-on-one with it.
Yeah, you just spend your time with Coach Slocum at Sabisa Dining Hall, and I'll never forget, it was one of the days where you picked up your Aggie Land, was it called the Aggie Land, the yearbook?
The yearbook, yeah.
And I had it in my hand. I had him sign my yearbook.
That is great.
It was awesome.
Yeah, well, speaking of RC, he's been on this show. So for those of you listening to this, if you haven't listened to RC's episode, it's great. He tells some awesome stories. Highly recommend you go back and listen to that.
I've been blessed to get to spend some time with RC personally, one-on-one, done some trips with him, and flown on airplanes with him. And the stories, they don't stop. Mm-hmm. And they are awesome. So yeah, if you ever get a chance to listen to RC or whatever, he's a cherished treasure. No
and I'm actually remembering now that episode was joint RC Slocum and Jacob Green. So that was it was getting to hear, football student athlete who played under Coach RC Slocum and hearing their stories about back in the day. And that was good interactions for sure.
Well, Jacob Green, RC's the best, and Jacob Green's right there with him. Jacob, I got to go to Seattle one time on a hunting trip with Jacob and Scott Woodward when Scott was the AD here. So we're duck hunting early one morning, and then that afternoon, Jacob took us to lunch and then over to the Seahawk complex. And you hear Jacob's a Seahawk legend, go to Seattle with Jacob Green, and you see that Jacob Green is a Seahawk legend. It is. You go to these restaurants, they still know who Jacob Green is. He walks in, they're like, "Holy cow, that's Jacob Green." You walk into the Seahawk complex, and they're parting the waters for Jacob Green. It is amazing.
Wow.
And that it is a shame that Jacob Green is in the NFL Hall of Fame. We're going to get him in the NFL Hall of Fame someday, but Jacob's truly a legend.
He is a tremendous legend, and I feel fortunate we get to work alongside him within, day to day. I mean, such a privilege. But okay, really quick, Jay, going back to your time as a student at Texas A&M, tell me about your degree. I know you study petroleum engineering. How did your degree influence and shape your career path?
if I could tell the story about how I got to be a petroleum engineer, a little sidetrack
Please
here.
do.
So I started out as a chemical engineer and struggled in chemistry, struggled in engineering math. So there was no reason for me to be an engineer. Sophomore year, first class, 8 a.m., Monday morning. I think we called it Chemie 201, your intro chemical engineering class. The professor was like, if you're struggling today, you shouldn't be a chemical engineer. So I walked out of, I think it was the Bright building, not the Bright football complex, but the Bright academic building over by Richardson now. And I walked down the street to the admissions building, dropped every class I had, changed to general studies, and decided I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I always wanted to be a baseball coach. I love baseball more than anything in the world. And my uncle in Marlow, Oklahoma is legendary. He's retired now, legendary high school baseball coach, one of the winningest high school baseball coaches in the state of Oklahoma. So I was like, I'm going to do general studies, then I'm going to be a kinesiology major, and I'm going to be a baseball coach. And I go home to Oklahoma later that year, told my uncle, I'm going to be a baseball coach. I'm going to follow in your footsteps. He goes, no, you're not. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, Jay, I've been coaching for 30 years. I make $35,000 a year as a high school science teacher and a baseball coach. He goes, you're not going to be a baseball coach. If you want to be a baseball coach, he goes, do it on the side for your kids when you have kids and get older. He goes, go do something and make money. And I remember leaving disappointed in my uncle, who, other than my dad, is like my idol. And he's like, he didn't want me to follow in his footsteps. I was sitting, and we called it the Bus Stop Cafe. This is old school. So old people listening remember. It's across from the old chemistry fountain. There used to be a bus stop there, and it had drinks and muffins and early morning breakfast sandwiches. And so I was sitting there one morning reading the Battalion, eating, and there's an article about how petroleum engineers were the highest paid major coming out of school, making $40,000 a year. And my uncle just told me he made less than that as a high school baseball coach. Grew up in southern Oklahoma, the shadows of Halliburton, which is the largest oilfield service company in the world. I can remember growing up during the boom days, seeing 15 oil rigs in our backyard. I mean, I grew up in the oil fields. I was like, I want to do everything I could to not be in the oil fields. And read that article, walked down to Doherty, which is the old petroleum engineering building, said, I want to be a petroleum engineer. And how do you become a petroleum engineer? And they said, you're in. And, you know, these petroleum engineers today, all these ETAM, you have to go into ETAM or whatever they call it and get selected to your major, kind of like rush, right? And they're like, okay, yeah, here's a spot. And so
just, open door.
That's how I became a petroleum engineer. Now, from that point, everybody who knows oil and gas and a little bit of A&M history will tell you. So Billy Pete Huddleston, who was one of our professors of practice, an old Junction boy, played for Bear Bryant, was captain on one of Bear Bryant's teams. He was, for everybody my age and probably a little older and probably 10 to 15 years younger, we all got taught by Billy Pete Huddleston. And every Aggie petroleum engineer out there, again, from probably 45 to 60 years old, was shaped and molded by Billy Pete Huddleston.
Okay, that's neat. That's really neat.
He brings tears to my eyes when I talk about him, passed a couple years ago. But none of us could do what we do without Billy Pete.
Wow.
And he's a legendary Aggie.
So he was one of the most influential people kind of in your life.
In the oil and gas business, he is
right.
the most influential person that I've ever dealt with. So worked for him for a few years, and then when I started my first company, he was instrumental behind me starting my first company.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that. That was in 2007, correct?
2007.
Yeah. You started that company, and you took the company, eventually took it public in 2014. But what was it like? I'm sure we have some people listening right now who might be thinking about entrepreneurial endeavors, but what was it like having that dream and kind of going out on your own? Like, okay, I've been working in this field for a while, but I think I want to do this.
So the strength of the Aggie Network, it's truly phenomenal, because in 2007, so Anthony Barr, who was my partner, I think he's class of 91, I'm class of 92. He was working at Hillcorp. I was working at Anadarko, and we'd spend every afternoon on the phone talking to each other on the way home and our hour drives home in Houston traffic, kicking around this idea. And one morning I was at a preschool graduation for Jacob, who's class 24, just finished his 6 years of Aggie football. And I called up Mr. Huddleston. I was driving to the Woodlands, called up Mr. Huddleston and said, Mr. H, it's time. I want to start my own company. And he goes, good. It's about time. I knew you would. And I'll give you $5 million.
Wow. Just initial investment.
No business plan. No, what are you going to do? You're crazy. I'm 36 years old. And I'm like, do I need more? He goes, well, we need a lot more. But because he's an Aggie, I'm an Aggie. He knew me. I worked for him. He committed $5 million, and we're off to the races at that point. And, it was a hard time. The financial markets crashed in 07, 08 timeframe. The economy was horrible, but we started our company and had quite the run. I mean, there's a lot behind it. 2010, we did our first big acquisition. 2012, we were about to go bankrupt. We drilled 2 very, very expensive wells. Our equity partner were ready to shut us down, and I begged them for one more opportunity. I said, and I kind of live by this mantra today: you can drown in 6 inches of water or 6 feet of water. Either way, you're dead, if you drowned. And we were drowning in 6 feet of water at that point because we had spent $300 million of equity money, and they were ready to shut us down. And I said, give me one more chance. We've got one more idea. We're convinced it's going to work. They said, how much is the well? I said, $15 million. And they're like, we spent 300. I said, exactly. You want to spend 300 or 315? Either way, we're dead, right? I mean, either way, that's a lot of money. And I convinced them to do it. And that well it changed the course of a lot of people's life, especially April and I. And that company went public 2 years later and sold a couple years after that. And that's why you got the Graham Athletic Complex, because I begged for one more well.
I'm hearing that resilience and that grit, that determination, to never give up. And let's try this. We've got one more chance, don't give up.
Never give up, because at the end of the day, it's not about how much money you have. It's about the differences you make. April and I live by and again, I don't want to Bible thump people, but we're very good about our faith, good Catholics, and I believe in it. But in Luke chapter 12, verse 48, now, again, I'm not a Bible reciter. This is one of the few Bible verses I know, but Jesus is talking to the disciples, and basically he says, too much is given, much is expected. And, much is given, not just because you have a lot of money, but by the fact that we're here, we're at A&M, you live in the state of Texas, you've been given so much. You look at the world today, right? You look at Gaza, you look at Iran, you look at the innocent people that live in those places that have nothing to do with the politics. They've been given a very hard life. You can be dirt poor living, and I've been dirt poor. You can be dirt poor living in College Station, Texas, but you've been given College Station, Texas. And so, it's just a lot of is expected of us. And so that's the way April and I live our life, is trying to give back, because we've been given way too much.
Well, what a great mantra to live by. And just truly, just even that verse you said, truly a great way to live your life. And you and April y'all have impacted this university in so many ways. Texas A&M Athletics specifically, but then not just that, on such a broad scale. And I'm glad you brought up Graham Athletic Complex, because that's exactly, it leads great into my next section next section of questions. But when did Texas A&M Athletics, become a meaningful part? Obviously, it was a huge part of your history and background and being, coming to Texas A&M. But when did you and April begin getting more involved in supporting Texas A&M Athletics on a philanthropic level?
So again, I went to every sporting event when I was here. So athletics has always been a key part of everything I've done. Again, I wanted to be a baseball coach, played football, played basketball, played baseball. So athletics is important. And it's as important as the books to me, and especially at the university level. And so it's the front porch. You can use all the cliches that you got. It's the front porch. It's a lot of value to the university. And so, even before April and I had money, we had season football tickets. And I think our first season football tickets were in the south end zone, temporary bleachers. That's all we could afford. And they literally were temporary bleachers in the south end zone. And go back and look at pictures, and that's where we were. And then when they redid the end zone, we had the third deck, top row, 25-yard line under the overhang of the press box. And Brady Bullard is the culprit. Brady and I'll throw him under the bus. We were beer drinkers together in college. We were neighbors in college. We lived on Navidad Street in Bryan. Brady was making me spend money I didn't have. But April and I had season tickets to football games. And so it's always been something we wanted to do. We loved doing it. The south end zone seats were great because the boys were young and they could go run around back behind the bleachers on the turf and have fun when the games got boring, because we weren't having quite the success that we were having when I was in school here. But it's always been a big part. And I can remember when they redid Olson Field, Sam Torn hosted an event at Minute Maid with Rob Childress to raise money. I had no money, so why I got invited, I have no idea. It's just that Sam knew us. We lived in the Bunker Hill area together. So I show up acting like I should have been there, which I had no business being there. And I put my name down for club level seats, didn't know how we were going to afford them. And then when it came time to get them, I couldn't get them because then we had the priority point system. I didn't even know about priority points at the time. I had none. So anyway, it's just been a crazy pathway.
Yeah.
And then again, when we sold the company and April and I finally had made the money that we have now, I knew we were going to spend a lot of it on Aggie Athletics. My problem is I like to give it away as much as I like to make it. So I better keep making it, because if I'm not careful, I'll give it all away.
Well, today I know y'all are multiple sport season ticket holders, right? And what sports do y'all league?
Baseball, basketball, football. And then I bought 2 season tickets to softball last year because my dad moved. So when my mom passed away a couple years ago, Dad full-time moved down here from Oklahoma. And he is quickly becoming known as a bigger A&M sports fan than me.
How fun.
All the coaches know him, and they see him everywhere. And he wanted softball tickets. So I talked to Brady, and we got softball tickets. So Dad sets my softball tickets. I will have volleyball tickets this year. I mean, I hate to be the bandwagon.
Oh no! Jump on the bandwagon.
But jump on the bandwagon, and so I'm all on the Jamie Morrison volleyball bandwagon. Oh, I've got women's basketball tickets, and so
that's awesome.
We got most of them.
So going back to Graham Athletic Complex, let's talk about that just a little bit more. You and April generously contributed a historic league gift to the Centennial Campaign, which was the largest fundraising initiative. For those who are listening and may not know, but it was the largest fundraising initiative in the 12-Man Foundation's history outside of the redevelopment of Kyle Field. But can you tell us what inspired that historic lead gift, Jay? And, what does it mean to have your family's name tied to facilities that make such an impact on student athletes every day? I mean, we have them on the show, and they talk about just this area and these facilities and how it just opens their eyes when they get here at how invested our former students are in Texas A&M athletics and how they want the very best for our student athletes. So can you just talk about that gift?
Yeah, it was, again, credit Brady and Travis. Brady and Travis both. Brady and I were always looking for something meaningful. So once April and I had the ability to do it, I wanted to do something. And it was just when was going to be the right time. And Brady and I talked a lot about endowing coaching positions or stuff like that. And I just, that never really interested me. And it wasn't about having the name on the side of the building, because I'll talk about that a little bit. because the timing was bad with my two boys playing football here. And it's put a lot of added pressure on them that they don't deserve. But we threw around a lot of ideas, and can't remember the year, you may remember, we were up in Colorado for one of the 12th man summer meetings.
Oh, summer meetings. Okay, yeah, I remember that summer meeting. That's before my time I was here.
5-6 years ago, probably.
Yep.
At least. And Brady and Travis got me in the light mountain air and got a little alcohol in me and started pitching these really big ideas. And I can still remember, I can't remember where we were, but we were in a conference room, just the three of us. And there just happened to be a beer can sitting there, right? And Brady and Travis strong-arming me, and we came up with the complex idea. And next thing you know, that's where we are. And it's an amazing complex. And you look back pre-NIL, and so I do debate in my head at times, did we put the money in the right spot? At the end of the day, it's 100% in the right spot. A&M's in a unique position that we did that, perfect timing, right before NIL hit. And you go around to Alabama, I get to travel to all the football games because Jacob and Jackson playing, and see the facilities there, and we're second to none. It's absolutely amazing what Adam Sin, Dave Coolidge, Wayne Roberts, and I shouldn't be naming names because I'll leave someone out, but Monty and Becky Roberts, David and Crystal Watts. I mean, I can go on. The Leaches. Again, I shouldn't be naming names, and to those that may listen and I didn't name, I apologize, because it's not just April, it's everybody. And it's amazing what this complex is. And it's been great because I'm getting to live it alongside my two boys right now and seeing the difference it's making. And Tyler White and Randy Bond. I mean, all these kids that I've gotten to know so well from football and baseball and basketball. It's amazing what this place is.
Oh, for sure. And having these elite facilities and resources, I mean, I feel like that's what helps retain and cultivate your programs here, right? I mean, that's going to help with retention. 100%. It's also going to help with recruits. I mean, for them to come here and see, yeah, this is going to be my home. This is going to be a place where I can better myself, not only as a athlete, but also as a student. Mm-hmm. I mean, just take the programs here alone in this building in the Adam C. Sin Academic and Wellness Center, where these student athletes can come, they can get great nutrition, sports psychology, sports medicine, the DEXA scans here, their academic advisors, all housed right here in this complex. And it's phenomenal to see it all the pieces working together right in this complex.
But we can't forget, and I called it out at the dedication, and I want to do it again, but without the McFerrins, without the Gillums, and I can still remember one day talking to Dorothy McFerrin, and she talked about her double wides that she loved so well, right? The old two bubbles that were here, and she called them her double wides. But none of this would be here if the donors back before things were great like they are now, we couldn't have done it without the Brights, the McFerrins. Again, I shouldn't be naming names, but Rhonda and Frosty.
Well, they set a standard, right? They paved the way.
Paved the way for us. And I can still remember first time I met Artie, he came down to my suite and just wanted to introduce himself to me because April and I had gotten that founder suite. My favorite Artie McFerrin stories, my only Artie McFerrin stories, the only time I met him. Jay, how were your grades when you were here at A&M? I said, oh, Mr. McFerrin, they weren't very good. I said, I'm a 2.7 overall grade point. He goes, well, you studied too hard. He goes, because 2.0 is all you need to get an Aggie degree.
That's so good.
Yeah, that's so that's my one Artie McFerrin experience. So he would say,
you weren't having enough fun. You're studying too hard. Just get that 2.0. So. That's good. Well, okay, you've mentioned your sons, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to share about them, but you have such a unique perspective with your sons, both being a part of the Aggie football program. Just tell us about your sons. And then how have you witnessed the impact of being a student athlete at Texas A&M can have on a young person's life?
So, as any parent, of course, April and I are super proud of our boys and what they've been able to do. And Jacob broke my heart one day. Well, let me back up. Just like any boy growing up playing sports, they wanted to play sports in college. Jacob always wanted to be an Aggie. Jackson, on the other hand, there's pictures of him hooking the horns, and he'd get mad at me now, but he actually had a chance to go play at UCF in Florida for Gus Malzahn, and we took a recruiting trip over there, and UCF offered him, but luckily he came to A&M. But they both wanted to play something at A&M. Football ended up being the pathway as a specialist. And, so I'm super proud because the work they had to do to become specialists is crazy. And they came here. But one day, Jacob broke my heart. He, got on the board of Regents, did this, did that, got an award here, got an award there. And he made a comment to me one day. He's like, no matter what I do at A&M, I'll never do more than what you've done. And it's the worst thing your kid could tell you, right? But so what I'm so proud of those two, I tried out for A&M's baseball team in 1988 and got cut. Mark Johnson said, Jay, Coach Johnson had watched me play in high school, played against his son, Ron, who was here at College Station. And he gave me a chance to walk on. And he's like, yeah, you're just not good enough. Sorry. And college coaches are brutal. It's like they have to be, right? It's a job. Jay's just not good enough. You're going to have to go be a student. And so to watch how my boys have been able, Jacob's a 3-year starter in the SEC. He's an academic award winner. He was a midseason All-American with Pro Football Focus. He's had Cowboy minicamp, Texan minicamp. He's got an opportunity to play in the NFL. And he's done so much more than I'll ever do. And so I'm just super proud of both my boys. Jackson's now here. He looks like he's probably earned the backup role, and he had a shot to become a starter. I think he'll still end up playing here someday. He got to play in the LSU game last year, so I got to watch Jacob snap to Jackson. And the great thing is both Elko and Fisher we made sure amongst the two of us, it was never about. And it's like, and those guys make way too much money to have any favoritism. It's about what the boys do. If they can't get out there and do it, they're not going to play. And so I'm proud of my boys. They've worked really hard to overcome who they are right now because they're a target. And you can read some stuff about them, and they've been a target. And it's not fair to them, but I'm proud because they play right through it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
For sure. And they're charting their own path here at Texas A&M, and that's incredible. How do you think being a part of the football program has just, helped shape and mold them into great young men?
Well, nothing's easy, right? All sports are tough. You think about their calendar, and if you call Memorial Day weekend day one of the football season, because they come and check in on Sunday night of Memorial Day weekend. They have their first meeting on Memorial Day. They start workouts for the summer on Tuesday of Memorial Day week. They will get a week or two off for July 4th. They'll get a few days off at the end of the second summer session before fall camp starts. Then they'll go till the season's over. And they will get 1 or 2, maybe 3 days off during the season, completely off during the season. Then if you go on a playoff run like we did, that'll stretch into their Christmas holiday. They'll get a couple weeks off for Christmas holiday, and then they're right back at it. They maybe get 3 or 4 weeks off total out of the entire year. And so it is a job on top of all the academics they do. The hardest thing an athlete, in my view, and I wasn't a student athlete, wasn't a college athlete, hardest thing those kids will ever do in their life is be a college athlete. The rest of their life, I think, is easier. Now, they got to start making money and doing things, but to be a successful college student athlete, and especially at A&M, the rest of the time it gets easier. And so I'm proud of our student athletes, every one of them. To do what they do, to represent us the way they represent us, to wear the A&M logo on the front, put their name on the back, kudos to them because it is a job 365 days a year. Because even when you're not here, the work you have to do on your own, on your body. I mean, it's a full-time commitment. And out in the real world, I get to take days off. I get to unwind and think of nothing. These kids, if they want to keep doing it, they have to live it every day. And so
Absolutely.
they're truly
full-time
amazing
jobs.
students.
Mhm.
So I'm proud of them.
They truly are remarkable. And kind of staying on this same topic of support, we talk to a lot of student athletes about just the power of their scholarship or the financial NIL opportunities that they're able to capitalize upon here at Texas A&M and how that truly transforms some of their lives,
Exactly.
and their families' lives. Have you personally witnessed, seeing that impact of, 12 Men Foundation donor support and season ticket holders, loyal season ticket holders whose contributions go back to help provide these opportunities and resources for student athletes in their programs? Have you personally witnessed kind of maybe a unique story or?
Unique story, not that I can come off with right off the top of my head, but, spending time with mainly the football players at different events that especially my sons aren't at, Terry Bussey. When we're at Top Golf and sitting at a table at a 12th man event and Terry's sitting there and talking to him and just seeing the poise and the way they carry themselves. I mean, they're just amazing people. And then I'm hitting golf balls up there one of these events and I'm not hitting it very far. And Chase Basantis, Mr. Graham, maybe you need to do more push-ups. It's just they're amazing. The fact that they can just sit there and have fun with you,
right,
and be relaxed and know that the opportunities that they're given because our donors are doing these NIL payments, are doing our capital projects, the lives that you're shaping and changing. And I see it being on the board of Regents. So many of them are first gen students. And higher education changed the lives of that entire family lineage. And so what our donors are pouring into these athletes today, you're not just changing that person's life, you're changing probably generations after them. You're changing those lives too. And so don't ever look at your capital payment or your NIL payment as just pouring into that person. You're pouring into generations after them. And so that's where you got to look at it.
That's so true. It's such a good reminder that it truly is that multi-generational impact.
100%.
You mentioned your service on the board of Regents. I want to know how your leadership, the various roles you've held at Texas A&M, including past member of the 12 Men Foundation Board of Trustees and as a regent, university system regent since 2019. How has that service deepened your appreciation for Texas A&M and its mission?
A&M, and this is not just because I'm an Aggie and not because I'm on the board of Regents, but being on the board of Regents has given me a perspective that a lot of people don't get to see. Our system, and I'll take it to our system level, 12 universities and 8 state agencies, 180,000 students, 80,000 staff members, faculty, staff. It's, A&M's changing the world at the system level and at the university level, because the system's only as strong as our flagship. But we're changing the world. It's crazy. Tim Leach used to say it all the time when he was our board chair. Whatever we do, the decisions we make, we have to look at it and make sure it's world changing, because Aggies change the state of Texas changes the United States, and the United States leads the world and changes the world. And so it's an amazing system. And the great thing about the 12th Man Foundation is I go back to, and I get accused of it all the time at the board level, and Sam does too. We're very athletic focused, Sam Torn and I, because that is the most visible thing that our university does. Now, is it the most important thing? Probably not, right? Cancer research, crop research, life-changing medical research is important. But the most visible thing we have is our football team and our volleyball team and our basketball teams. And so I'm so supportive and so happy and so proud of our athletics, because that changes it. And seeing it from the board level, the way the 12th Man Foundation influences that, and the way Trev and Coach Elko, I mean, they're, again, changing the world because we're changing the lives of our student athletes by giving them these opportunities. So it's a wide stretch, but we see it at the board level. It's not a wide stretch because we see it.
Yeah, man, that's such an awesome perspective too. What a unique perspective to have too at that level. And I love the Tim Leach quote. I'm going to remember that and write that down. Oh my goodness.
Tim's amazing because he's like, everything we do, guys, has to change the world. That
ripple effect.
Yeah, it's the ripple effect.
I have just a few more questions for you before we wrap up. So this has been an awesome episode and conversation. But when you think about staying on that note of just Texas A&M and changing lives and then preparing our students, our student athletes to go out into the world and make this society and world a better place. When you think about Texas A&M today and its future, what makes it so special to you? And then what excites you the most about moving forward and looking ahead of what's to come?
Just what we have in front of us. Dr. Balabina becoming our president. I'm so excited about that. She has a phenomenal perspective on things because she came up through the ag agencies and she's seen the whole state. And A&M stands for agriculture and mechanical. And the two things we got to be really, really good at is that, because that changes the world. And again, I just go back to, we've got so many resources, and go back to the Bible verse I said earlier, we've been given a lot and lots expected of us. There's a lot expected of the A&M system and the A&M University here in College Station, because it's changing the world and it will continue to change the world. And the fans, the boosters, 12th man, the foundation, everybody knows that when you're contributing and doing, and whether it's time you're contributing or money you're contributing, it all makes a difference, because A&M is the best one out there. I see it. I mean, I deal with a lot of universities and a lot of people and talk to a lot of people, and we're unmatched. We truly are unmatched. And we should be really, really proud of that, because I know we are at the board level. This is a phenomenal system and university.
You said proud. Well, speaking of proud, what makes you have a lot of pride just to be an Aggie, if you could pick a few things?
Well, my wife laughs, and I'm going to call her out a little bit. She's a Red Raider, but we won't hold that against her too much. Our core values are really important to me, and your core values should be like your kids. You shouldn't have a favorite, but I have a favorite, not on my kids, but I have a favorite on our core values, and it's integrity. And Aggies there's just, the integrity is off the chart with Aggies. I see it with how we deal with each other, how we deal with the outside world, how we deal with other universities. And first and foremost, if you don't have good integrity, I think the rest of it kind of falls apart. And so the most proud thing I think I am of A&M and Aggies is the integrity that we hold near and dear. And I think that's, a lot of Aggies would say that. We've got our love of the university and our love of the football team, and we love wearing our maroon. But at the end of the day, the integrity is just different amongst Aggies than I think it is other universities. So that's where I hang my hat.
Could not agree more. And final question for you. Why do you believe it's important to answer the call of support?
Again, we've talked about it. April and I have been given way more than any two people should ever be given from a resource perspective. And so we have to give back. And again, I just want people to know, and I know they do, it's not about the money you give back. It's about, what do you give back? What is your richness in you that you have, whether it's money, time, support, reaching out, talking to someone, just smiling, right? So answering the call for people can be any number of ways. And just call Brady, call Jacob, call Travis, call Brian. It doesn't have to be about the money, right? I mean, yeah, we give priority points and it's based on money, but give your time, give your support. Tell them you want to be a mentor to one of these student athletes. They'll set it up for you, a personal mentor in some way. And so just give back in whatever way you have the extra resources to give back that way.
Jay Graham on Answering the Call podcast. Thank you so much again for your time today, Jay.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Answering the Call. If you're enjoying the show, please rate and follow us on your podcast streaming platform of choice so you can be the first to know when a new episode drops. As always, a big thank you to our incredible podcast producer, Megan Rohde, to 12 Man Productions, and Texas A&M Athletics NIL Department. We also extend our heartfelt gratitude to every donor and season ticket holder for always answering the call through loyal support of Texas A&M Athletics and our student athletes. We will be back soon with more content. Thanks, and gig 'em.